Welcome back, everybody. Glad to be back with you once again. Coach Roy is co-hosting today, and Coach Pinkos, special treat for us here today. We have a college coach. She's incredibly busy, so appreciate your time, Coach. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I was on your website, Coach. I can't believe it's your 19th year there. That's
Me neither.
amazing. Yeah,
Me neither.
that's amazing. What a change in SNHU right now compared to what you walked into 19 years ago. The online thing has just exploded, and the campus has grown a little bit. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the growth in the school as you've been there over these 2 decades.
Sure. That makes it sound even longer. Thanks.
Yeah.
When you put it in that perspective, you know what? This university is amazing, and it's why I'm still here. It's made up of a lot of good people and just a great mission. And obviously, the online program has taken off. I think we were in it early enough before COVID, where obviously since COVID, a lot of schools are trying to get themselves into it, which is obviously taking away a little bit of our business, but it's transformed our campus. It's transformed our university. And the former president, Paul LeBlanc, he's nationally known, world known now. He's written a couple books about higher education, but he's just turned this university into a landmark where everyone knows about Southern New Hampshire University. So we're super excited about it. It's helped athletics. It's helped just transform our campus into a beautiful campus, new buildings and stuff over the last 20 years. And yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it's easier to recruit to when you have a great product, but you have a beautiful campus and amazing people here working at it. So it's been really good to our program, and certainly personally to me.
Yeah, it's been incredible as a fan to look at the growth in the programs and the campus itself, and you play in a beautiful gymnasium, which I'm sure doesn't hurt when you're recruiting, and the growth of SNHU over the years has been really impressive.
Thank you.
I did a little homework. I knew of your recent success, but this is 6 straight seasons now that you guys have had real success, winning records and NCAA bids, and you play in that tough conference with no cupcakes. And,
no cupcakes, top to bottom. Doesn't matter what anybody's record is, for sure. It's a great league, but I think that's why the kids come here, because it's competitive basketball. Everything going out in the world now with Division I and NILs and all that. Luckily, right now, I will knock on wood that I'm not having to deal with a lot of that chaos and the transfer stuff that's going to happen year in and year out of coaching of players and stuff like that. But we're in a really good spot where we've created a culture of positivity, academically, athletically, socially, where the kids are getting a really good experience, and they're staying here for 4 years. You always know there's 1 or 2 kids, over the years that it might not be for them, and respect that. But it's really a great place in a great conference that, you're right, it is not a cupcake. There's not one team in this league that you can just look at the schedule and say, oh, we're going to win tonight. You have to battle day in and day out. But that's what we signed up for. The recent success that we've had, I think over time, it took a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but once we've got it going, I think now it's a little bit easier because we've been competitive and been able to be in the NCAA tournament and be in the top, 4 or 5 every year, which is certainly helpful in recruiting.
Great. So, Coach, I just wanted to ask a little bit more about like the NIL and how that affects you guys. Obviously, at a bigger school like maybe an Alabama football program, that's going to have more of an impact. But, here in our backyard of New Hampshire, what impact does that have on athletics?
I mean, it has you're looking at professional teams at the collegiate level. So I don't know how long they can sustain this. And I know you've probably just seen, the coach down at Miami resign in the middle of the season. Jay Wright got out of it 2 or 3 years ago, really early at a young age for a head coach that's had a lot of success. It's probably a good thing for the athletes, but it's not such a great thing for the coaches in terms of a culture and a program sustaining a roster. From what I've heard from a lot of my colleagues at the Division I level is, you are recruiting a new team every year, as opposed to, I think at our level, we're recruiting 2 or 3 players to replace classes, not rosters. So that is a hard job in itself. Right now, we're not dealing with that. Our men's program is a little bit, because the best players on our men's team is then being recruited to go play Division One. So, it's good, bad, and different. However you feel about it, it is what it is. And so we have to change as coaches and our recruiting, prepare for anything that could happen. Where usually you just say, okay, I've got 2 seniors, I'm going to replace 2 seniors. Now it's like you're replacing 2 seniors, but what if? We try to present a program where the kids love it here, where they know what they're getting. It's just a great, comfortable environment where they love their teammates, they love the school, they love the basketball program, and that they don't want to leave. So that's a job in itself, is to try to create that culture. But our players are creating that culture within themselves. So besides from that point, the NIL money, we don't have any. We don't have any money. We don't have any NIL. We don't have any kids on NIL, and I don't know if we ever will. If we do, great. If we don't, I'm okay with that too, because I don't really want to coach professional athletes. I want to coach amateurs who are trying to get a college education. I mean, to me, that's what they're getting paid. Many of them, some of them are not. But that's what drew me to college athletics, is that pure amateurism. And the professional part is just a different mindset. So whatever it turns into, I will have to adapt.
Great answer. I wanted to talk a little bit about like the recruiting process, because I know there's a lot of people in my audience who are familiar with recruiting but don't exactly understand how that whole process works. So from your perspective, what do you have to do, and what do you think it's like from the athlete's perspective? And also, like, how far do you typically branch out in trying to convince players to come there?
Sure. So the recruiting process really starts as soon as you find someone, whether they're at my camp and you're like, hey, there's an 8th grader that, we need to follow her down the road. But for the most part, you're actively recruiting, identifying as sophomores, and then actively recruiting them as juniors, and hopefully signing them as seniors. That's typically the normal path. In terms of where we're getting those kids, there's 2 ways. Really, is the one is the AAU programs. Attending AU tournaments, practices, big time tournaments all over the country. And then just simple high school kids, because that may or may not play AU. I think a lot of kids think they have to play AU, which obviously from a competitive standpoint, there's a lot more or high level of competition, even from some of the smaller programs like at State of New Hampshire, which is small. You're getting a lot more exposure. But for the most part, we try to recruit both the high school athlete as well as the AAU athlete, and try to stay in touch with both of those coaches. Now, sometimes it gets, and I don't know how Pat feels about this, but there's that ownership thing where you need to speak to me as an AAU coach, or, oh no, you need to speak to me because I'm the high school coach. So there is a little bit of friction sometimes, and we try to be respectful of both of those people. And just keep the open lines of communication with both coaches. Or we just ask the athlete, who would you prefer us to go through, and leave it up to them. So
Right.
That's part of it in that aspect, because we certainly don't want to step on anybody's toes, and we want to be respectful of both. The high school coaches spend a lot of time all year round, where the AAU is usually seasonal. But in terms of expanding recruiting, you also have budget restrictions, but now you've got the internet, which, it's been around for a while, but I feel like since COVID, there's a lot more student athletes promoting themselves through social media, through services, which, you can say yay or nay on that one, but I'm sure for some kids and some levels, it's super helpful. But just the video access that we get is a lot easier now than what it was 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
You're not sending a VHS or CD through the mail anymore. You're just turning on the computer and pushing a button and getting them on YouTube or Huddle.
Right.
Coach Roy, I'll go back to you.
Oh, okay. Coach, there's something that you guys do every year in your program that I think is really awesome. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your Pink Day. It's kind of a great community service type thing, but it's turned into quite the event over the years.
It has, and that's something that, we're really proud of here in our program. And I mean, this is a group effort or a team effort within our campus and within the community. We have been able to include so many departments within the university, from student affairs to wellness center, alumni center or alumni office, and just other student athletes on campus, to now partnering with CMC Breast Care Center, which they bring their team every year. And even in the most recent years, even have brought a group of their survivors, which is super, super personal, but also powerful, and empowers our players to, let's be honest, I'm coaching a game. I'm not coaching and trying to survive my life. And
Right.
I think the impact that this can have on our players, and even people in the community, is just really, really cool. And I am so proud of the university and our team over the years to grow from, maybe having just one of our players wearing one of those pink shirts and having 30 to 50 people in the stands, to now usually averaging 700 to 1,000 on that particular day,
Right.
with a lobby just full of pink, whether it's balloons or tables and raffles, and people that have been very generous donating, gifts, raffle items, but just promoting the awareness at a young age is really, really important. And I love that you brought that up, because it is a pride and joy. I've had way too many people impacted by the C word, whether that's, breast cancer, but I think just cancer in general. We obviously promote it started from the Kay Yao Foundation. The former North Carolina State coach started all this. And through our WBCA, which is our Women's Basketball Coaches Association, it has grown into a national campaign. And we still try to support that, but we've made it more a local, to really try to bring in our community and partner with CMC Breast Care Center.
That's always been a really great day that we tried to push with the kids at Hopkinton if they were free to come. And I think, that type of community service gets lost sometimes when people get focused on, well, did they win 15 games, and
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's important for our kids to see it too. It really is.
Yeah, make them give back a little is always positive.
Absolutely.
One of the things I have to bring up is I had the all-time three-point leading shooter at Hopkinton, and you never recruited her. I was a little disappointed.
I recruited her to my camp, but that's something that I try to separate family and my profession. And I've been extremely supportive, as you know, for all the kids that went to Hopkinton, and tried to go to as many games on my off nights, or running from my practice to Morgan's games or Kevin's games, or even when Michael was playing. But I think Morgan, there's no doubt Morgan misses it, but I also think her goals for academics exceeded her athletic goals, and had a really good experience. I kept trying to get her to maybe try out or even play intramurals, but I know that when she goes back to the alumni game, and she came to our game last night, like, I know she still has a really soft spot for basketball, and will always probably be a part of the McGrath family, and it's cool. But
yeah, she as you know, I'm sure you know, I mean, she was an absolute pleasure to coach. It did take us about a year before we could have a real conversation, though.
You might have me beat. She's a good kid. She's a good kid. She's a young woman now. But I think when you see the growth in her as a person, and you certainly have played a part in that as your role as a coach and a mentor, the transformation of her personality has been really fun to see. Obviously, I'm biased as her aunt, but pretty cool.
Yeah. So we talk a little bit about when you get into the recruiting process. is there a personality type that you think is a best fit for your program when you get out there and you're looking at players or you're looking at tape?
Sure, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things is not just obviously you can walk into a gym and you're going to see skill. That's you kind of call that the eye test.
Yeah.
So that's an easy one. But what's behind that skill? Are they driven or motivated internally, externally? How competitive are they? Because I think now, because this is a huge part, it does kind of to some kids probably, and especially at the D1 level with the NIL, it's become a job.
Mm-hmm.
So, how competitive are you? And I joke with them and saying like, yeah, well, when I had nieces and nephews and we were playing, or not when we got together, if we're playing Yahtzee or Uno or whatever, like I'm super competitive. Competitive at a traffic light. Like I want to beat the person next to me. So we joke around with it with our team, but they know that competitiveness needs to be a part. But honestly, still, I can't tell you enough about just a good person. We all know that in coaching, we may make a mistake or two here and there. But the biggest part that I think keeps our program going, and I think if you were to ask people on our campus, is how good our kids are as people, as human beings. And that, to me, as a coach and a coaching staff, will take that any day over a more talented person and a knucklehead. Because it's about the team, not about themselves. And it makes it fun to be around when they're good kids. And I keep using that term of endearment, but they're young. They're impressionable. They're 18 to 20, 23 now with the last year of COVID. But yeah, I think that those qualities are super, super important. Obviously, skill is going to be the number one thing, but I'll take work ethic over a less skilled player that I know can turn into a better player. And that's usually as a Division II coach. The Division I coach is going to walk into the gym, and if they're really, really good, have a good work ethic, we're probably not going to get them. So we're trying to take that, oftentimes that second level tier player with a great attitude, a great work ethic, and just a really good person, and then they can transform into a great player.
Okay. Drew?
Yeah, Coach, something I wanted to ask. I mean, you touched on it a little bit just now, talking about like SNHU and how you guys really enjoy having like that good work ethic and just good character and people. But specifically, like, what are your favorite parts about SNHU and coaching there?
It's the people. And it's not just like our team, the other athletes, the people who work here throughout the campus. I think at a Division II level, I've been able to embrace the university mission and help out where I can on campus. I try to encourage our players to, do community service, but get involved in other things on campus. I actually just had a conversation with a player 15 minutes ago about possibly being an RA. And I think that would be really cool for her. I think she fits the personality, but I feel like as a coach, sometimes you get lost in your team and we're in this tunnel of just our team. I've tried to, as a coach, try to embrace the entire university, and all our sports teams are really successful here, all of them, and we all are super supportive of each other. They've become friends, your work friends, but just lifelong friends of colleagues supporting one another. And so I feel, for me, I love the fact that I can do that. I think if I were at a higher level, yes, I would make more money, but the pressure to win and win fast is really high. And I was in it as an assistant. But to embrace the entire growth process of a student athlete is what I really enjoy. And I'm able to do that at Southern New Hampshire University.
Great. Something I was really, really curious about is what are like the top 2 or 3 things that you've learned at SNHU as a coach, or just like about life in general while you were coaching there?
Oh, that's a great question. I put some thought into that one. I've learned to not be an emotional reactor when things get hard, because sometimes you act quickly on emotion. And I probably have made some mistakes in the past of acting a little too quickly, and not let it settle and really hear the message. I've learned to build better relationships with my players, which has been most important and probably most effective. But I also know that or players respond better when you build those relationships. And it's, when you have 15 young ladies, like they have one relationship with me, I have to have 15 relationships with them. And sometimes it's hard. But you got to try to make time for each one and value each player and whatever their role is. So those are a couple things. But also keep things in perspective. This is a game. This is a part of their life. It is my livelihood because I coach it and it's my career. I've chosen this. They have chosen to play basketball in college, but they still have their college life. They have their personal relationships, whether that's significant others or family relationships. And they have stuff going on in their lives too. So really trying to keep things in perspective that this is a game. And I want to be as impressionable as I can in a positive way, but that this is a piece of their life. It is not just their life.
Fantastic. That's a great response. Is there anything else you would like to add in terms of just like stuff that I guess sort of the nuances about coaching college basketball that you would want viewers to know?
Well, the question I get asked all the time is, well, what else do you do? Coaching has many hats. And it's funny but I do get questioned and asked now. People will ask me, do I coach men or women? I think that's really cool because that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. So that's really, really cool. But honestly, I think that people don't realize that coaching is not just coaching a sport. It's coaching life. I mean, I can't tell you, matter of fact, this is why I was late on this call, if the things that we have as our challenges as coaches come from the things that our players go through, whether that's mental health, physical health, life-changing things that happen in their family, whether it's a death in their family, a divorce in their family, things that a pet passing away, like things that they bring to the table or things that they bring to our team that we have to help them grow as people. And it's a lot. And then you have the academic piece, the social piece, the financial piece. Are they able to have a job on campus too and go to school and play basketball? So I think that's the biggest one, is that we just wear so many hats. My day is never the same. And there are times that I just have to absolutely drop what I'm doing, no matter what it is, because a player has walked through the door. And that's my number one priority are my players. And so I will be able to drop what I'm doing. And recruiting is second to my current team. I think a lot of coaches say, recruiting is so important, and it is, but you don't want to make it more important than your current team.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for coming on, Coach. Really appreciate having you today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wish you the best of luck. And if there's anything I can do for you in the future, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love follow up, where you're headed, and I'd love to hear, what your career path will be. And if I can help you in any way, I am a UNH alum. A lot of those people have left, but I still have relationships with the new coach and the new AD. So, and obviously nieces and nephews, alumni. So, best of luck to you, Drew. And Coach, it's always great to see you. And
Great
I love that you love retirement, but I know the game will always be with you.
But I get itchy at times, but then I remember the school bus rides in 20 below zero weather. And
that's what Stan used to say. That's funny. February 8th is our pink day this year. February 8th.
Oh, great. I'll try to make it over there.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks so much,
Thank you,
Coach.
Coach.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye. Happy New Year.